Remix. 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 Remix.
When I see you smile.
Oh, yeah. Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. We came here to bring you that boom bap breakfast with a little bit of reggae, salsa, moringa, everything. We mixing it up today. So thank you all for tuning in as we get into it. But I can't do this by myself, but actually I can because nobody is here yet. So the show must go on. With that said, I started off with a little mix since we here. Let's do this.
The touch of your hands can do. It's like nothing that I ever need. Yeah, and when the rain is falling, I can feel it, that you're here with me now. I want to ask you, baby, if everything's alright. If everything's alright. When I see you smile, I can face the world. Oh, I can do anything.
You know what? Let's not get into a mix. Let's just go ahead and bring in Kamal K. Franklin.
Man, I messed up the mix.
Yes.
I feel like I must be Pigpen. I come back and nobody else coming on in the morning with me. What's happening here, man?
Ain't that some disrespectful shit?
This is some disrespectful shit, you know what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm here every morning. So
I love that shirt, B. I'm very serious about that. I like that.
Oh, thank you. I did it. My tie-dye.
You did it? You spilled something on it? How you do that?
Tie-dye, bleach and different colors.
I don't know what tie-dye is. You got to explain to me what tie-dye is.
I mean, yeah, that did come out in your time. You're right. My bad.
I barely know what tie-dye is. I just don't want to seem that as dumb as I am.
Nah. Yeah, you get certain. That's what I do. I don't like to look like other people, so I get different.
You don't look like I don't know if I know anybody who looks kind of like you. You got like you.
Not my style.
Oh, I meant face and.
Oh, please. There's a lot of doppelgangers out here trying to claim the name.
A word? They look like the Ear Doc?
Yeah, man. I got a tribe. They out here.
They out
here somewhere. I remember I got mistaken for Dallas Austin before by one of his rappers. Was going to go get some trees one time back in college. And what was the rapper's name? What was the rapper? Yeah, I got a picture of him on the record cover somewhere. Okay, Jamal. That guy. He was down with Dallas Austin. I went to go get some trees, and he was selling them. So he wasn't doing too good as an artist.
I was going to say the rap name must not have paid off.
And this man was like, "Yo, Dallas down here." And he came out later, "Dallas, blah, 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 blah." And he got closer to me. He's like, "This ain't Dallas." I was like, "Well, treat me right. Give me a nice set."
He just started. Well, that's probably why his career was going. He can't even tell who his man is.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Much.
That's not a good look. That's not a good look.
When nobody came last time with me and Kim last week, you know what we did?
Y'all brought some people on?
We brought people on. I mean, we can
my favorite person is Elon, and she refused. I mean, she hasn't gotten fired from that job yet. I'm just saying.
Oh, really? I mean,
I thought I know it's your favorite person too.
Oh yeah.
I know y'all get along so well.
Yeah, always got some
Have y'all met in person that time we was in DC?
I think they didn't make it.
They didn't make it? Oh, okay.
They didn't come that time we was in DC, right?
No. Okay, I think I saw, but I was at a conference and that's where we met or whatever like that.
Okay. All right. Well, Elon, I think Elon has a manager because
I know God is Elon will not be joining.
I didn't know. Elon gets managed by God is Crew. Wow. Let me find out. Okay. See.
I like that. I like that. Very protective.
See who has the pool in this
very protective people. How are you
Yo.
doing otherwise, my man?
Everything is good. I did a event yesterday with Molly Davis and a bunch of other lawyers over at Clark Atlanta. It was good to be back on campus. It was they was talking to this professor Angie Porter,
Mm-hmm.
and she was also a lawyer. So they was talking to other law students about being rooted in African centered before
Oh,
you get
okay.
into the whole lawyer thing, so you can know the difference between right and wrong and ethics and stuff like that. So, because that is the thing. You get out there, you start making money, then and you don't start thinking like, will my ancestors be cool with this? Would my people be cool with this? Would I be disrespecting my people?
Mm-hmm.
Or even like when you're talking about the black cop that killed the brother recently, the older brother, the elderly brother.
Here in Atlanta.
Here in Atlanta, yeah. Like that cop would have thought before he had that uniform on, he would have been like, this is an elder. I can't disrespect an elder like this. But he didn't have that mind state.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, fuck it, I got the uniform on. You're a criminal.
Boss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But when you had that thought before that happens, it's like, okay, let me not be disrespectful. So
Yeah.
it was good. It was good.
That's cool. I used to like talking to the law student when I got out of school, and then I would get invited back to talk to the black law students at some event or at my school or some other school.
Mm-hmm.
You could there was usually, at least the people who would show up to something like that, the searching, like you said, to stay relevant to community.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time they were pursuing their craft, and you can see the push pull, right? Folks I feel like they're in some position to make some bread. They want to make money, but then even if they're not even going as far as thinking about what they can do for a community, a lot of times they're hit smack dang in the face with the sort of the racism of corporate America and the do's and don'ts. And people literally would tell stories about when they had locks and how they were told that they had to cut their hair, how they were told about even dress, just things that you were like on your face, like somebody could get punched in the face in the regular course of life. Mm-hmm. It's like, mind your business, or what I got to do with you, where someone's trying to pay you six figures, and then all of a sudden you're being asked to conform because their clients ain't gonna like how you look, or their clients really don't want you on their cases anyway. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how brilliant you are, but all they see is somebody who's black, and so immediately you got to conform in terms of your hairstyle, your appearance, and all the rest of it. So it's a wild world out there, and then sometimes people are trying to figure out how to live it. And I would usually tell people, I was like, I think once you start down that road, you're not turning back no time soon. Mm-hmm. Once I know people got to make money, and I know people got to pay back their loans, and that's part of the trade-off. But once you start down that road, it'll be like 25 years later, and you're still going to be talking about how you want to get back to the community, and you ain't in the community no more. You don't know the community, and you coming up with them same ideas around, I put myself up by my bootstraps, why can't they, and all that kind of shit. All that shit starts to wash all over you. So
you start. Yeah, that is a thing. Even in I always go to music. When you start off with your first album, you in the community. You broke. Your best first album is usually your best album. Then like Biggie, for instance, his second album, you start getting money. Then we like, all he's talking about is rich this, rich that, proud of this, proud of that, and then we like can't relate with you no more. You know what I'm saying? So I see how that happens. But yeah, man. And one of the questions the students was asking was like, knowing that you're walking into the belly of the beast, how do you keep your head up, knowing that you're fighting a uphill battle with laws that's always going to keep you down? Like, how do y'all keep y'all head up in them courtrooms, knowing what y'all fighting? And I guess it's just like we got to fight for our people. It's no other way. So. Pick up to all the lawyers out there that's actually, doing their job.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, when I was practicing, I was doing my job. When I was practicing, I was a people's lawyer. I was a movement lawyer.
Look where it got you, man. I mean, good job. You know what I'm saying? You
I don't know if
big
you mean
things.
that as a compliment or not.
It is. You're doing big things. I mean, it was just like, take it how you take it. I mean, I'm working on being a nicer guy, but
I don't get them checks other lawyers get though. Well, even when I was practicing.
So
Because I was always one of those people. I was like, oh, I'm low on cash. I got to take on cases. And when after I did my cases, I was like, I got to get back out organizing kind of thing. So
how does that work when you do, like, okay, say an accident or something like that? A person makes how much, and how much does the lawyer make? What's the percentage? How they usually do it?
different states have different regulations around it. So different state bars, like New York was a third. Some states are as high as 40%. Some states don't even have. I don't think some states don't even have a cap or whatever like that. But I was a third, and some lawyers also charge a third plus expenses. I always considered that to be gouging. I'm like, and most, I didn't do accident cases. I did what they call a 1983 federal lawsuits around police brutality and misconduct. So I took on cases when people were abused or hurt by the police. Those are my civil rights cases. And so basically most New York was built, and a lot of states are like this, were built where they put money aside knowing that their police were going to be abusive. And so a lot of it wound up in settlements because those settlements were like sort of pre-understood to be the outcome of the kind of policing they were engaged in. So most of the cases settled because people didn't want to wait 3-4 years, 2-3 years before something went to an actual trial. And you just didn't know what kind of jury you were going to get, what the outcome could be. So a lot of times, there were like sort of like certain situations call for certain kinds of settlements. So a simple false arrest could be anywhere from in a low end, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Anything that involved abuse could be higher than that. And it was literally that kind of like range in which, you're basically auctioning off body parts and stuff like, oh, you got punched, that's worth this, or that's worth that, or that's worth this. So that's how that system worked. And people wanted to get, and rightfully so, some sort of retribution through the ways in which the society works. And that's usually through some cash, right? That's some monetary thing. So that was, you got to build up your case, you got to present your evidence, you got to look through the files and discovery that you get. And usually things settle when they're going to settle via the discovery route. So that's when both sides are turning over information. In police misconduct cases, mostly they are turning over information in terms of police write-ups of the case and all that kind of stuff. And then you can start trying to find your own witnesses, comparing, contrasting. And a lot of times even the prosecutors the city attorneys who represented the cops, they knew in their cases were bullshit. So a lot of times they, in and of themselves, were willing to settle because they knew that, even after delaying for a certain amount of time, it was going to cost the city money to even continue defending the case. And it was cheaper for them to defend rather than to go all the way.
Another question I was wondering, do you feel now that you have more power outside of the courthouse or outside with the people, with the megaphone, more power outside or more power inside?
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, like somebody asked why, I think in the chat, I think I saw something about why I left lawyering or whatever. And I left it because I didn't want to, I left it because I didn't think I was getting enough accomplished in terms of my goals in the courtroom as a lawyer. So they might, and I didn't enjoy it as much as some other people. It wasn't like, at first I liked it my first several years of practice because it was almost like not a distraction, but it was something other than the law, other than organizing, that was intellectually stimulating, right? So, figuring out cases, going through cases and all that kind of stuff, helping in other ways. My background as a lawyer helped us with the Cop Watch we started in New York when I was with the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Doing Know Your Rights things, actually setting up a small institution where if folks were hurt by the police, we help provide them with lawyers in addition to myself. And then we would try to get them involved with some kind of organizing around their case if it reached that kind of level and try to politicize them. And then we would also fight for policy change. So it was like this sort of thing where we were like trying to reach people in different avenues based on police brutality in the community. And so it served a purpose for a while, but I also felt like I was being pulled away from actually street organizing, which I still think is the key to any kind of liberation struggle. It's not in what you're going to get out the law. Like, you're not going to win some case in the law where it's going to be like, aha, We're going to open up and give you freedom. Here's the key to freedom right now. Or here's this or here's that, right? So, and anything you get, they can be taken away in terms of how the court system works. So it just didn't feel like it was the best way for the organizing that I thought was important. Doesn't mean I don't think it is important, because I think it is, but it just wasn't the best way for me to use my time. So I after a while, I packed it up after like 10 years. I worked for the Center for Constitutional Rights for 2 years as, what was the title I had? I think it was something like either the Human Rights Fellow or something along those lines. And after I did that, then I really stopped practicing for the most part. But yeah, it was just more about like, there's things that you could do that are useful through the law, but it's not the same thing as organizing mass organization or attempting to organize organizations where everyday people can join and fight for liberation.
I feel that way. I feel that way in the school system. Like what I'm doing with teaching the kids is like, I could go be a teacher, but then I got to follow them rules. I can't teach history. I can't talk about this, that, and the third. After school program, though, no rules.
Yeah,
I get to get in there and say what I want to. But yeah, I feel you. It's power. It's power. People actually really do hold the power. That was another thing we was talking about last night. Is like, you want to have something happen in the courtroom, fill those seats with people that come and support, certain things that's going. I forgot. I don't even want to say it. But instead of the jury and the judge and all them having the power, you fill them seats with all your people in there. Then they'll be like, okay, we see that they're really behind this person, and then it'll sway the judgment.
Yeah, like Lady Alex said, many of us survive financially, which prevents us from abandoning making money to follow our goals, which include fighting for human rights. And I totally understand that. So I'm never one to put down anybody for having a day job or having a job that makes resources for themselves. The question is, again, will you get to make sure that you don't get swallowed up in that job, right? Particularly if you have these certain political views, then how do you balance that time around the work that you do to make money for yourself, particularly if that work doesn't lend itself to politics or organizing through that work? But how do you balance that? I think people got to figure out how to balance that, because otherwise, again, you spend so much time, you make your money, then you need to relax, you need to chill, you want to do other things. And again, for me, at that stage in my life, I even went to law school because I was already political. I was already politicized. And for me, going to law school was part of how do I organize for Black folks, right? And I thought at the time, by going to law school, it provided me with the career to make money. And I could also be a people's lawyer, and I could do organizing work. And for a while, again, that did work. But there was a time period for me where that didn't work anymore. And I was like, I need to get back into organizing. And then I did all these nonprofit jobs and got fired from them because I was like, y'all not,
You ain't doing it right.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
You
like, you ain't doing it right.
Why are you using Black liberation language? And you just really, you try to, you're putting up like, I won't tell who, but somebody, like, I worked at a job. I was a political director. And, they were like, part of the task was, could we put this website up about like chicken and how chicken is bad for Black folks? I was like, chicken, nigga, I'm not putting like,
He's
what?
like, I got chicken at home on my plate when I get home. What do you mean?
And I wasn't mad at it. It's like, I don't understand. That's not like, that's not what the language that this institution was supposed to be about. So there's like, and again, there's this always, as everybody knows who works, there's always different interpretations, even again at regular jobs, around how you should do your work, what the work should be. And, I wasn't always one to understand. Even when told to me, I would have like sort of like, what are you talking about? They could explain it in plain English. And I still in my head, it was like, I don't know what you're talking about right now. So either I quit, get fired, or something like that. So
yeah, well, seems like we got a lot of questions in the studio audience, in the chat room. So yeah, just keep firing away, chat room. And what I'll do is I'll put a link in the chat room for and if you came on already, fall back. Yeah. So we want to see some new people come in so we can I say that right.
Really? Does Boggs have a real job?
Yeah, she do. She be at work. I mean, I don't nobody be over her shoulder, because I'll tell you what, boy, she be watching some shows on Black Liberation Media. She must got one of them cubicle jobs where you sit and she got a cube
job. She got a cubicle. Oh, she got to be.
She said yes. She got one of them cubicle jobs. Stop playing. It was good to see her. It was good to see her when we was in DC too. So
I know. Then we met her husband. Right, he
yep,
was there
yep,
too.
yeah.
I know. It's like when you saw it, like, yeah, meeting y'all have real lives and y'all are real people, not just people who like yell at you on, through
It's in the
a
chat.
machine, who type out nasty things to you in the machine. That's
You
kind
know
of
what I'm
cool. Yeah.
saying? It is. It is. So the good thing is we'll be meeting some more people in Indiana and in Naptown coming up.
True.
So that'll be good. So make sure y'all come out if y'all anywhere in the vicinity. If not, just make your way out there. Stop playing.
That's right. Remember, May 30th, 31st, June 1st. We got that lineup is building. In another week or two, we're gonna come out with some of the first panels that we're going to be having at the Black Radical Organizing Conference, and some of them are going to deal with the historical situation, what's led us to this moment. And we got some bangers in terms of not only academics but organizers who are going to be on that panel. Then we're going to later on talk about what is to be done. You know what I mean? Using a little Lenin term, how are we going to organize our way out of this? Like what is the work that's ahead of us? And then this other panel, this is going to be a big fight. That's why I wanted to do it. It seems like. So is there such a thing as an electoral strategy that's left of the Democratic Party for us as a people? So that's going to be something that there's going to be some guests on, the different views. So that part is going to be all so I feel like that's going to be like then we're going to do, as folks asked about 2 years ago, can we do some skill building workshops? And so we're going to do some skill building workshops. And then we're going to also do some workshops based on the work that's already being done to see if folks want to join on to some of that work, see what the organizing is. And then I'm telling y'all basically the whole schedule. And then lastly, what we're also going to do is do a demonstration and rally for the Pendleton 2, who are political prisoners in Indiana, what is it? Illinois? It's not Illinois. Where are we going to? Indianapolis. Yeah, in Indianapolis. I was like one of those odd things. So in Indianapolis, we're going to be going to the prison, and y'all are going to join us. Those who want to come, because we're going to do a big rally in support of those brothers. So we got and we're going to do some sessions for folks to gather with each other to talk through what's next steps. How do we continue working with each other in terms of organizing post the conference, right? I know a lot of times we always have these different reactions to conferences. Sometimes the conference is like, oh, this is cool, let's do a conference. And then people are like, yo, that's all we're going to do is a conference. It's there's always things that we do after the conference. But sometimes what you got to do is have a conference where people get to gather, talk, meet, hang out, do different things, network with each other. And then the question becomes, what can we do that's next, that's bigger than all of us, bigger than all us as individuals, bigger than all of us as the organizations that we have? How do we continue to fight and organize for Black liberation? So,
that's dope, because it's usually a clash of the egos and nothing really gets solved. No solutions come about a lot of these different things. And, one thing I do usually when I'm doing the audio and stuff is I'm the timer. So when somebody talks for too long, I go, It works. It works because that ego will make you think, everybody came to see me, so I'm gonna over talk and talk longer than everybody else, and then nobody else gets to talk. So, but we let them know, this is at the Black Men Lab. We let them know that this is no disrespect to you. It's just we got a time we gotta respect. So don't try to meet me in the parking lot once I hit the. Yeah, that's what we tell everybody. Like, this is what it is, because that's an important factor too when it comes to those, because you're gonna have people that's going nah. Oh, you be like, well, damn, we didn't even get the everybody to chime in on it. So,
I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the conference, I'm gonna give a 2.5-hour speech on organizing.
Please don't.
Just jokes. Hiram will be there. Hiram don't even know he's gonna be there yet, and a lot of these folks I haven't even told they're gonna be there, but they're gonna be. Yeah, Hiram's will be there. All your favorite it's almost like a celebrity shit. All your favorite organizers will be there. So a lot of folks gonna be there that that you've seen on Black Liberation Media, folks that you've done study with, that you've organized with, all the different organizations. Some you like, some you don't like will be there, right? And it's an opportunity again. in this moment, it's a big opportunity for us to, even organizations that we've had our issues, problems, concerns with for the most part, but who are still generally in the left space, all of them we will try to make sure that most of them are represented and are there, because we are at a period where if you are thinking about Black liberation and you're earnest and you're trying to build something, then we need to try to do that together as much as possible for those that we can build with, right? So
yeah, dope. See, Elon just wake up every morning thinking about how to hate on the ear doctor. I love it. I'm glad.
You're talking about what are you talking about usually?
Yeah, when I was
me?
When I was talking about people that go overboard with they talking and stuff. I'm glad I got a condo. And
y'all might even date. You might fall in love.
I'm glad I got a condo in Elon's head. My girl Cardi B said.
Ego.
Yo. Anyway, so I put the link in the chat room for those that want to come on and give a shout out, ask a question or two. Well, a question, and keep it moving. Come on.
Or if you're good with the commentary, I don't mind having a back and forth with folks over issues and things that folks want to talk about. And because again, I think we do need some new hosts, some additional hosts.
Yeah.
That's just because somebody mentioned earlier, like we're gonna go 5 days a week. We're gonna need some more energy, some more hosts. And y'all the perfect ones, because y'all always got something to say.
Always got something to say.
Always got something to say. You know what my man just said there? He said,
so with that said, yeah, go ahead and come with a microphone, a decent camera, and come on through, and we'll chop it up for you.
I'm gonna get some news ready, some things that we didn't get to the other day that I'm
let's do that. And let me go ahead and get a break together, since I'm doing double time over here.
You're a little salty too at times. You know that though, don't you? You got a little shade out.
You know what it is? I'm mad at the fact that I got to go outside today and do some yard work. I got to fix this fence in the back. The code people came around and said, this fence is down, and I ain't even knock it down. Apparently somebody knocked my fence down, and now I got to go fix it or get fined.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah,
that's not nice.
That's part of having your shit. The less shit you have, the less problems, I tell you.
Yes, the conference will be live streamed on Black Liberation Media. I'm sorry, I know you were trying to take a break. I want to make sure. Yes, it will be live streamed on Black Liberation Media by the Ear Doctor. The Ear Doctor will be there live streaming the conference. But as you know, it's always better to be there. And a host. So if you register for the conference, for those who have registered, who have not seen this yet, for those who are about to register, once you register for the conference, then you will get hotel information where we're getting discounts for folks who are coming. So once you register, then you'll get an email that'll tell you the hotels that we've already put to the side for you to come and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we can come back, y'all. The link is in the chat room, so get yourself fresh-faced it. Put your makeup and rouge on or whatever you need to do, and come on and rock out with us right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Remix on the remix.
What it is when it's gonna be no, I can't call it. All I know is I had to step up. Speed it up, cut the chase, going for first place. Before the mother cats try to get ya. Moving on the hips, killing me with every tip, girl. You about to get a tip too. The worst that goes down is you turn me down, but this time around I got it. Hey, how you doing? Baby, what you getting into? I don't know what your name is or who you came with, but I ain't leaving without you. Hey girl, how you doing? I've never seen nothing like you. There's a body that shape is your claim to fame, and girl, I ain't leaving without you. No. I want your body.
Okay, let me take you to a time and place. Let me take you back to 1993 with Black Moon off that album Enter the Stage. Name of that song is Who Got the Props? Mixed with a little bit of 2010 with Jaheim off his album Another Round. Yes, the name of that song is Ain't Leaving Without You. All right, big up to all y'all tuning in. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare. And what you can do is you can donate to blkliberationmedia.org. That way we can keep this thing going. We are demonetized in case you are new and don't know about it. Why? Because we be bringing that fire! In the words of my man Billy Dance and MOP. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get back to it right here, right now on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Ooh, I love that beat.
I sure hope my man Jaheim is doing better.
I know.
I was so sad when I thought that story came out like a year or so ago.
I was just talking about how he looked. I was like, God damn.
No, that shit was crazy. Because in our youth, like my man, I mean, he had a moment.
Yeah, he was talking about treat that woman better, treat himself better.
Yeah. What was that song? Was it you? Was that song? Keep your head up or some shit?
Which one? By
the one that he had. He had that one. He had that one hit.
Oh,
it was kind of big.
Yeah. You're right. I forget that song.
Yeah.
But let us know, chat room. I'm sure y'all know.
So those who, and one more thing. So those who work, because I keep seeing some of these questions about the conference, I want to make sure, because you guys are obviously one of the prime audiences to come out. For those who registered early, we had to change the link. So you did not get the hotel registration information, but those will be sent out to you very soon. Love I Am also, CMB. I think I just sent an email to you about organizing, about CMB and having a meeting. So for Love I Am, I individually saw it. I just want to put that up there. I did individually see your application. You didn't send an application, you sent in an interest form. We don't put out the applications online like that. But we have an interest form, and I think I responded and I included you. I should have for an upcoming interest meeting for community member builders. And so I'll talk about that real quick too, since I don't usually talk about CNB the way other people talk about their organization.
Yeah, because this is usually BAP Wednesday, so it's
it was like, and I'm taking over. I'm taking over. Women's Wednesdays, BAP Wednesdays. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I've dethroned all that. I'm taking over. So next week Thursday, not this week Thursday, next week Thursday. I got to watch what I say. We never know. Ricky might sneak up and hit me over there.
No, she got to be out somewhere.
So next week Thursday, we are going to be doing a quick info session for anybody who's interested in either joining CNB and plugging in, that kind of thing. So I just want y'all to know that I'm going to, before the week is out, I'm going to put a Zoom link in the chat if anybody's interested. Coming on next week, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. It's going to be informal. And so it's just going to be talking to people who are interested, who have obviously reached out before. And then just to we're bad at responding sometimes, so it takes a little while. Then, this is one way to say, hey, here is an interest meeting, answer all your questions. And yes, yours truly will be there hosting said interest meeting. So just to let you know.
All right, there it is. All right, I guess ain't nobody coming on, so I guess we can go ahead and get to some news. You pull up. All right, let's go right here. News time. Extended news.
What's up? So I'm also texting my Love I Am. I know we're having a personal conversation with you. That is my email address, kamalfranklin@gmail.com. If you haven't seen it, if anybody's interested, just email me and I'll send that link to y'all. So kamalfranklin@gmail.com. just email me if you're interested, and I'll send the link out to you to make sure that if you're interested in want to come on that interest meeting next week, Thursday at 6:30, I'll make sure I send it to you. I will take the time to send you that link or whatever like that. Even though I'm a busy man, busy man, but I'm gonna send that link out to you.
You better put that woman first. Yeah.
Who's that woman? I don't get it.
That was the Jaheim.
That was one of his songs. That wasn't the song though.
Fabulous was the song you was talking about.
Yeah, because he spelled it out, and I was like, what? What is he spelling? Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how. Anyway, all right. So I guess we got news. I'll be double timing today. So let me.
Yeah, I always like your perspectives and shit like that. You got things to say.
I'll be having some things.
Yeah, maybe now and then.
Whole nother perspective. I hope people respect.
I know you be taking it places, but I appreciate it because you represent what I feel sometimes is the everyday man, the common man.
Whoa, I don't know about common. More like uncommon.
Well, that's true. You are an uncommon comment. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, so my man, the Atlanta Mirror,
boy,
the Atlanta Mirror, it recently, I guess, gave the State of the City address, and as doing so, I guess he's attempting to brag or to display what he feels like he's won and or what he feels like he's accomplished and what side of a fight that he's on. So I'm gonna play this as real short. Somebody sent this clip.
Two, we fought back and kept our city whole. When they tried to stop Cop City, we fought back and built the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. And when they try to tell us that diversity and inclusion are something to run away from, we will fight back and show them that.
Now, who is the they in this sort of bullshit commentary? Who is the they? So on one hand, this dude who has spent the last 2.5 years of his administration trying to make sure a militarized police academy is built through cutting a whole forest down in a black community to further militarize the police to attack organizers and activists and to continue the attack on the black community. He's trying to suggest that somehow he should take some credit for doing that, and he's proud of himself for doing it. And on the same tip, then he has another mysterious they, who he's claiming he's fighting for diversity and inclusion for or whatever. Well, at the same time, this dude, as I put in my own commentary, sits at the knee of the governor of Georgia, who is a right-wing white nationalist governor who basically tells him everything and anything that he has to do in order to appease the governor. And that's one of the reasons why he got Cop City built, was because he teamed up with the governor, Kemp. Yeah, Governor Kemp. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Governor Kemp, with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Atlanta Police Force, the DeKalb County Police Force, again, federal agencies. That is how Tortuguita got killed, because of the teaming up and the sweeping of the force and the murdering of activists and organizers. And now he's still on this hell-bent idea of trying to suggest that what he's doing is something for the people. It's got nothing to do with the people, my man. You are basically militarizing the police against the people. And when Donald Trump comes to town and tells you to kiss the ring, I bet you kiss the ring, because that's what you do. You kiss the ring. You kiss the ring of the white nationalist governor. You kiss the ring of all the developers in Atlanta and in Georgia. And you're going to kiss the ring of Donald Trump when he comes and tells you to kiss the ring. And we all know that's what's going to happen. So he's not fighting for anybody or anything when he talks about diversity, because he's even stated that he doesn't want to there's no reason to have unnecessary fights. So he's even stated that he's not even here for unnecessary fights. So in other words, he's trying to lay low, be mayor, not get into any disputes with the governor or his president, but still wants to act like he's fighting for somebody. He's not fighting for anybody.
I beg to differ. Mm-hmm. He's fighting for someone. He's fighting for the rich, and he's fighting for that seat to stay right there. Because if you think about it, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna build this Cop City, and all y'all rich people, you ain't gonna have to worry about no crime. You ain't gonna have to worry about nobody running up in your house. So I'm making y'all feel safe. I am that Negro that is helping y'all feel safe. So he's fighting for that position, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's going to win re-election most likely. Because I agree, like he gets good media, good press. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution speaks highly of him, which tells you already that is the local newspaper for Atlanta and the dominant newspaper for Georgia. What used to be a Southern segregationist paper, right, which is now the mainstream paper for the city and the state. And he gets good reviews from them, and so it's clear that he's most likely going to win re-election. And then to be clear, though, no one hardly comes out and votes. We got more signatures, 116,000 signatures, than he got votes in the last election. We collected more signatures than the total amount of people who came out and voted in the last Atlanta election. Think about that. 116,000 signatures that we collected was more people who voted in the entire Atlanta mayoral election last time. So this is what we're talking about, a small percentage of people who come out and vote that he probably will get the majority of votes for. But you're 100% correct. You're right. He works with the rich. He works with the developers. Atlanta has, again, this history of all the new apartments or housing that's been built has been designated as luxury housing. So, so this is who this dude represents. So when he tries to stand up and act like he's some warrior against other interests invading Atlanta, he's the one who's opened the door for these interests, or who keeps the door open to allow these developers and these corporations to come in and under his watch basically continue to change the makeup of Atlanta as Atlanta gentrifies and as the Black population of Atlanta continues to go from over at one point well over 60% to now 49, 48, 47% of the whole population.
Because they're looking at making this the new Black. What is that? Silicon Valley, like over here. So
it won't be a Black Silicon Valley, because when you see the people who work in those institutions, they won't be Black people. And Silicon Valley is not owned by Black people, so they ain't gonna be Black people working in them institutions. Don't let them lie to you. It's gonna be
they're gonna train. It's gonna be a lot of training. You don't think it's gonna be a lot of training to get them in there?
No, that's always what they say right at the beginning. At the beginning, they're promising you it's going to be local jobs. It's like when they build these stadiums, right? And they build these big stadiums, they're always promising the people in the city that it's going to provide jobs, it's going to increase the value of their real estate, it's going to make life better for them. And then all studies have shown once these huge stadiums get built, these sports stadiums, again, usually on the dime of the city, mostly who puts in the money while the billionaire keeps the profits, there's no development or for the community surrounding those areas. There's no job uptick in jobs for people who live in those areas. And so when they tell you that, the only people who benefit from those things are the developers and the people who are already scheduled to make money in and around, who may seize property and then move out the people who are already living there. And then lastly, they usually are taking housing away from the people who are already living in those communities, not improving the housing, but basically stripping those housing and moving folks out. So that same thing will happen with this. So they give you these little things. Oh, we're going to bring in these things at the schools and teach people coding. They're not getting them jobs, because what they're usually doing is moving workforce from one place to another because of the tax break. So when they're building something new in Atlanta, it's because they're moving people from California or someplace else because they think they got cheaper taxes here. And most of those jobs go to people who have already been employed. Then the few jobs that do come, do you think under this current environment that they're going to choose Black folks?
That sounds like
over other people?
That sounds like the movie industry here. Like they come over here and bring their own crews. And people like, oh, they having a new movie studio, but it's like, we're not hiring y'all. We working with who we've been working with, and we bringing them over here. So
yeah, the few jobs that you get out of it does not do anything to increase the economic value, the economic conditions, let's say, of the folks who live in Atlanta. And again, every study has shown that Atlanta has the biggest opening between those who are rich and those who are poor, right? So the chasm between rich and poor here is bigger than almost any other city, and it remains that way. And so there is no way in which these companies come in here and think about what they're going to do for a local population. They're bringing their people in. And those people are middle class folks already. They're usually middle class white folks. Those middle class white folks come in, not exclusively, but mostly, and they bring up the rent value. They buy housing, which brings up the housing value. And then people think that means that they're going to get paid off. But usually what it means is, boom, they're pushed out of the city and they can't live in the city no more. So those are the things that usually happen with these so-called developments in this so-called Black Silicon Valley. It will not be a Black Silicon Valley. You're going to have a couple of mascot Black folks who work there. But again, in this environment where everybody's claiming, DEI is the new code word for affirmative action, these companies have said they've gone out of their way to say that they're not looking to diversify anymore, that they're not looking to go and make sure that certain populations get the same opportunities as other populations. In fact, they've now taken the complete opposite track of that, right? You've had Meta, you've had Google, you've had all these other companies that they're no longer doing quote unquote DEI. So we have to know up front that these jobs are not going to be going to the Black community. They're not going to be going to the graduates of these different places. Folks are on their own. And I think that's part of going back to the conference. That's part of what the conference is. We are on our own, good people. What we don't develop, what we don't grow, what we don't organize, what we don't control, it's all in somebody else's hands, and you can't continue to live a large life or a life like that and expect to be liberated.
So I think looking at another perspective of this is a lot of people are looking at like technology being the final jobs you can get right now. It's like a lot of hands-on stuff is disappearing. Technology, AI is coming in, so a lot of the push for the STEAM and STEM programs is, okay, well, these are going to be the jobs that's going to be available. So this is one way you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn this if you're going to want to get a job. So
yeah, and that's what they tell you. And again, look at part of the fight around the immigration issue is the tech companies are continuing to try to make sure that as everyday immigrants or poor folks who do the day-to-day work get pushed out, right, and taken and thrown out the country, they want to keep open these immigration channels for engineers, people already in the tech business from India and other places. So that they want to keep open, that spigot they want to keep open so that more folks can still come here and get those jobs, right? Because they will work, i.e. cheaper, and or they will set up some of these places in different places outside the country. Because again, folks will work cheaper for what they work here. This is not, there's no part of corporate America that is looking to employ a mass amount of Black people. Let's be clear about that. And I don't care what skills we present. Again, other studies have already shown that white folks who are high school graduates on average make more than Black people who are college graduates, right? So there is no industry that's looking to hire Black folks in mass. And that's part of the propaganda to keep us thinking that if we learn these skills or we do these things, and some of these skills could be good skills, but that we've learned these skills in mass, then somehow there's a place for us in corporate America. And that just does not happen. That's just not how it works, right? So again, the skills might be...
STEAM is the A for art.
Art,
yeah. For arts.
So people got to... So we have to understand that these companies are not here, again, to employ us, to do anything for us in mass that is supportive of our development as a community or as a people. It is the exact opposite or whatever. We're here as cheap labor and sometimes no labor, right? So,
well, big up to Urban Tech Academy, my STEAM program. Yeah.
How many y'all got jobs out there? How many people got jobs?
Huh? Oh, we got a lot of people jobs. We do training, HVAC. So it's more than just the regular coding and stuff. Like we teach chess, we teach podcast production, DJing, and then those are the ways that you can mix in history so they can get the ethics. So we can't just give them, like you said, teach them, how to get a job, coding, this, that, and the third. It's a way where you can have this program, get some people some jobs, and at the same time, give them some culture so they can get their mind right before they even get into
and some politics and some
politics. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's ways I feel like you could do it still. I like to try to do both. But that's just me. I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
What's the next story?
Next story we got coming up here. So I wanted to talk about this yesterday. So apparently the U.S. and Ukraine have made a mineral deal. And part of this is said a draft agreement discussed on Tuesday does not include a $500 billion payout the Trump administration demanded earlier. So Ukraine has agreed to a deal to turn over the revenue from some of its mineral resources to the United States, an American and Ukrainian officials said on Tuesday after an intense pressure campaign from President Trump. The final details of the agreement, including the amount of money that Ukraine will pay the United States, are not yet known. But a draft agreement discussed on Tuesday no longer includes the $500 billion payout. It also does not include a clause requiring Ukraine to pay back the United States twice the amount of any future American aid. The Ukrainians became more comfortable with the deal in the past few days after the Americans removed some of the more onerous conditions. The draft agreement said Ukraine would contribute to a fund half of its revenue from the future monetization of natural resources, including critical minerals, oil, and gas. The United States would own the maximum financial interest in the fund allowed under American law, though not necessarily all. And the fund would be designed to reinvest some revenues into Ukraine. And when they say reinvest, that usually means that they have to hire an American company that then does some work in Ukraine, right? Security guarantee. Mr. Zelensky had repeatedly pressed for security guarantees for his country in exchange for mineral rights as Russia's war has entered its fourth year. But draft agreements reviewed by the New York Times include no such security agreements. And so then it talks about approval process, the type of minerals that are at stake in terms of what they're promising, uranium, lithium, titanium. So all of these things. So this is an amazing development in turn of events for the Ukraine. Ukraine basically allowed itself to be used by the United States and NATO over the last 3 or 4 years to basically keep Russia busy, to cause a war with Russia. Again, Ukraine walked a path that the United States and Europe was promising or suggesting that somehow it would get what's called NATO membership, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, basically a military alliance, and push up, have that alliance push up onto Russia's front door. Russia has repeatedly said that's a red line. We've told you we've had agreements. You've broken those agreements and had other nations join NATO, that we will not allow another country to join NATO and have you push your military hardware on our borders. That's a non-starter. We've said it over and over again. Ukraine continued to play that game with the United States and Europe, thinking that the United States and Europe would come to its defense and support it when Russia threatened Ukraine, that it would help stop the Russia from potentially invading Ukraine, as Russia promised it would do if Ukraine continued to play this stupid game with the West and be used as basically as cannon fodder. Ukraine put its citizens up as fodder for an invasion, knowing that they would be basically the tip of the spear in terms of the war that would be fought. But they stupidly believed that the United States and the West would basically support with military hardware, that they might even help protect Ukraine with an actual invasion. And all of that is coming back now to bite them in the ass, as not only has Russia over the last few years managed, even with NATO technology and weaponry used against them, but managed to fight this war and to win basically almost a third of Ukrainian territory in terms of a devastating war for both Ukraine and Russia. Now we're coming to the end game. And what's happening in the end game? Basically, the United States has now turned its back on Ukraine and said, you know what? It's your fault this war started. It's your fault. You started this war, right? And in exchange for potentially even trying to come to an agreement where Ukraine will lose 1/3 of its territory to Russia. It is now being forced to give up its mineral wealth for the West, right? It's an amazing turn of events, because for the United States, what it's attempting to do, as we spoke a little bit about yesterday, for the United States, China is the big enemy. China is the place where they all things are turning, or the war machine is turning towards China, because it is scared that China has both the military, population, and the technology and the economy to challenge the European dominated world order. And it wants to try to get Russia to somehow break away from China and to be on the United States side, or the West side. And so it feels like giving into Russia right now and ending this war and developing a better relationship with Russia, which is a 180 from the classical Western stance, which Ukraine is shocked that the United States has taken. But anybody who has studied history, even a little bit, understands that the United States fastly throws its so-called friends in the garbage when they're no longer useful to them. When they've served their purpose, they'll go from somebody who they're lifting up to somebody who they're arresting, i.e. Noriega in Panama, to someone who they're ditching, to somebody who they're actually assassinate. So the United States now has decided that its foreign policy interest is no longer in moving NATO to the border of Russia, because it doesn't even consider Russia that to be its real enemy, that the real value for the United States is turning Russia against China so that it can now put all of its forces, all of its ideas around how to stop China squarely against China, and then use Russia potentially as a force to turn against China. And so far, Russia has said that it will not, break its friendship with China. Again, I'm one of those people who's cautious, because I don't know if I think Russia in the past has not held up, fully in terms of being an anti-Western bloc. I think there's been several times in its recent history where it's tried to actually become friends with the West, and it's cost them in terms of relations. And one of those times, as mentioned yesterday, was when in the United Nations, the Security Council vote, they allowed sanctions to be placed on Iran, the same Iran that is using or needs now for weaponry to help fight its war in Ukraine. And then it also has not delivered the promised weapons, i.e. military warplanes, to Iran that it's promised in the past. So the question becomes, is Russia going to give in? But Ukraine has just been played for a complete sucker. They're losing 1/3 of the land. They're losing their mineral resources, and they just lost a war. So
what is that? Just to gain favor with America?
Basically, yeah. It's at this stage, if the United States pulls out completely and stops supplying Ukraine with weapons, Europe is not in a position to provide the same amount of weapons as the United States, because the United States is a war machine with like bases, over 800 bases all over the country, right? So basically, this feels like, this is a payback, right? Basically, the United States is saying, give us all of your mineral wealth, so that, again, it has other places besides China, because China has a lot of these. China right now dominates the market for the minerals that are used in our phones and other AI technologies that people are using. So they want other streams of having access to these minerals. And so having Ukraine basically give away their minerals under the guise of maybe there'll be some sort of security agreement, or we'll keep supplying you with weapons at least until we end this war and you lose 1/3 of your territory, but we want to get paid back for that. I mean, it's gangster, right? I mean, it is gangster. This dude is like, kiss the ring. Yeah. And he's, and he's put himself in a position of like, what choice does he have? If he loses all of the ability to get weapons from NATO and the United States, then Russia basically can take over the whole country within a matter of months if he can't get weapons from outside sources. So he's trying to save the what's going to be left of Ukraine. But again, it never would have happened if they didn't go in the first place and believe the United States and Europe that somehow that they were going to protect, that they were going to play footsie with them and be able to become a NATO country. After, again, the United States overthrew Ukrainian presidents who were more neutral or more in favor of having a good relationship with Russia. And this fool decides that he's going to play footsie, and all of this is coming back to haunt him. Doesn't matter what the mainstream media in the United States is trying to pitch to us around Zelensky, some hero of Ukraine. He's basically sold his country out. He's left his country open to not only be taken and ganked from Russia, taking a third of its territory. Now the United States is taking all of it, taking its mineral wealth. He's not going to have nothing to govern after it's all over.
Just because he want to be down like Brandy, boy, I tell you, that's what happened. So listen, we gonna go ahead and take a break after that one right there, because yeah, that's what you get when you want to play with the big boys. They got used and abused, got set up to get wet up. So we're gonna take a quick break and come back with some more. And I did drop the link. Quick, I hit the wrong button. Real quick, we had a quick question right here, which was from Leah Boggs. How do you integrate ethics into a podcast production? Real question, no shade. Easily. You bring out different people and you talk about Ella Baker or somebody like that, and you talk about how these strategies, or you talk about Black Panthers, and then you talk to the kids about what strategies and what tactics were being used, were they right, can it work for the day? So the thing is, it's all about having conversations and being able to allow the kids to use their mind, being able to talk, because they're being talked to all day at school, but they never had time to actually elaborate their thoughts. So this, in podcast production, allows you to elaborate your thoughts, come up with your own critiques, and use your mind. So that's what it's all about. And at the same time, you can figure out what's right and what's wrong. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break right here at no other than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Oh, baby, yeah. What's good, everybody? Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Thank you all for tuning in. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com. Become a member over there. Get footage that's rare. And you can also donate at blkliberationmedia.org. We are demonetized, so that will very much help keep this thing going. Paying for StreamYard, paying our hosts to be up and giving y'all that news every morning and more content. All right, boom. Who I want to talk about right now? Let's talk about no other than Chris Jasper. Yes, Chris Jasper, part of the Isley Brothers. He was a singer, composer, producer, member of the Isley Brothers from 1973 to 1983. And then they had Isley Jasper Isley from 84 to 87. He was also had a solo career too. He actually did 17 of his own solo albums. A lot of them was gospel and stuff like that. Did a lot of production for other people. But yeah, he was big on the synthesizer when he was doing his music. So a lot of people was like, oh, yo, that's that dude. So they hired him to come do some production for him. But he started off, working with his smaller group, going to Teaneck, New Jersey, wound up hooking up with some of the other Isley Brothers, and they formed the group Jasmine Trio. So they was doing that for a minute, and then wound up meeting up with the rest of the Isleys, and then they formed their whole band and hit y'all in the head with bangers. Yo, so he just had his transition February 23rd, 2025. He had cancer, and he was at the age of 73. Like I said, so many albums, Caravan of Love. Like I said, his solo career was crazy, so many albums. But yes, big up to him and his family. He actually he had his wife for 42 years, and she was an attorney and an author. So big up to him and his family. And keep on rocking. Play some Isley Brothers. All right, with that said, let's get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
The sheets. Ooh, baby, baby, I feel your love.
Yeah. So,
oh man, now you made me feel what's up. Now I'm sad.
Don't be that way. Don't be sad when we got a guest coming through that tapped in that came through last week. Actually,
Is he in his car?
Yeah, he's in his car. Let's do it. Let's see.
I don't like when you're in your car driving. You got to pull over or something. You're making me nervous.
X Freeman.
No, I'm pulled over, man. I'm stopped.
You making me nervous when you're in the car driving. I was like, oh my god.
No, I'm stopped. I am stationary. You look at both hands, baby. You know I ain't gonna have both hands off the steering wheel now. I mean, I'm not gonna do that.
You gotta get some shea butter on them hands. Them things look like you've been working on clay.
Hey, baby, I'm on the clock, baby. I'm on the clock.
Big up, X Freeman. How you doing today?
Hey, man. I mean, I'm here. I'm maintaining and surviving, baby.
All right.
That's about all I can say.
What's on your mind today?
I just figure I called in. Last week I chimed in and nobody else wanted to come in, so I figured y'all was looking for a guest to come up. About that whole Ukraine situation, that's a whole Donald Trump deal. The United States jumped in with Ukraine. I really don't understand. I mean, they're all warmongers anyway. So it's all about trying to make money for the military industrial complex. That's what that whole game is. They see an opportunity to start a war, or what they quote unquote call it a proxy war. Anything that they can do to make money, because a lot of those individuals, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, a lot of the guys on the Republican side, they got stock in all of those military contractors. So they they illegal stock trading to make money. That was the whole deal, I ain't gonna say the whole deal, but that was part of it. So they can make money, so they can sell arms over there, and also so they could try to, do something to try to get Russia off the square. But everybody knew that old dirtbag Donnie was already, in bed with Putin to begin with. So once he won the election, everybody knew that once he got in office, that Ukraine didn't stand a chance. Zelensky's talking all that big trash about, he's going to resign and this, that, and the third. And he tried to talk tough, but he was talking that nonsense when Biden was in office. But he wasn't able to talk that big stuff with old Donnie boy being in there. So he knew he was going to have to tuck tail and do the best he can to try to make a deal, to try to salvage what he could, or else Russia was going to take that whole country over. Plain and simple.
Yeah. No, I agree with a lot of that. I feel like he had to know what was coming down the pike. I think you're right. Like once they saw that Trump was going to come into office, but I also agree that obviously the attainment of these minerals is mostly geared towards enriching the United States and its corporate backers and so forth. And who are those? But the stockholders. And that goes across both parties, right? Both parties will have individuals in both parties hold major interests in all of these big corporations that are going to be using these minerals to enrich themselves. And again, the big play is that they don't, for them, is that they feel like they won't be reliant on China for these minerals. And there's a big separating or decoupling, as they say, of the world economy that's taking place, not even in slow motion, in fast motion, where the big thing over the last 40 or 50 years has been to make the world economy more integrated, particularly between Europe, the United States, certain parts of Latin America, certain parts of Asia. Now the big thing that China is now big enough to not just be a manufacturer of toys, but China is now in a position to manufacture all the same type of technologies that the West can manufacture. Now the West is scared that because China can do it somewhat better and cheaper, that they are going to be replaced in the world economy, which means they're going to be replaced in the political order. And so again, this realignment around the Ukraine that Donald Trump is doing. Again, my suspicion is that at some point Biden would have done the same thing. That they saw that whatever they thought they were doing with Russia was a losing effort. And as they turned most of their attention back towards China, which again has been the plan since Obama was in office, right? They came out with big white papers that talked about leaving the Middle East and stopping being involved in the wars in the Middle East, so that they can turn their attention towards China as its biggest challenger in the world. And as we've seen in some of the speeches that some of these different congressmen and different administrative people have made, from the Secretary of State on, they've all laid out the idea that China is the biggest adversary that the United States and Europe has. And when they say adversary, they mean someone who actually can challenge it on an economic front, and who they can't just invade and win, or they can't get a proxy war going and someone's going to be stupid enough to want to fight China in its home, in terms of either invasion or something on those lines. So this has been happening for a while. This is kind of like the last straw in terms of this pivot, where it's trying to settle its disputes with Russia in order to try to get Russia to break away in terms of its friendship with China. Which again, I'm not like on the fence. I doubt Russia will be stupid enough to put itself in the pocket of the United States completely. But again, I think Russia in the past has taken some turns, which has not done them any service, which makes, I think, even their allies and friends look at them a little alarmingly in terms of whether or not they will do some things at the benefit or request of the West, because they think, hey, finally we get to be a part of Europe. Oh, we get to be back invited to the G20. We get to get back invited to the big conferences that the West has. And whether or not Russia and Putin have learned their lesson, that you can never trust the West to honor any agreements. And so I think that's part of what the discussion is right now also.
Well, I'm gonna agree and disagree with you partly. I don't think so much is Russia in the United States. I think it's Russia and Donald Trump. I think it's more Russia and MAGA. As far as Biden was concerned, and I'll expand on that in a second. As far as Biden was concerned, he wasn't necessarily going at China in the manner in which Trump is going at China. He was trying to do it through Taiwan. See, he was trying to use Taiwan. He was trying to beef up Taiwan, and he was trying to start the proxy war situation by saying, we need to put ships over there to guard Taiwan. We need to put arms over there so that China won't invade Taiwan. So that's how he was trying to situate the war or the beef against China. Whereas Trump was doing straight trade. Okay, we need to eliminate them as a competitor. We need to do more stuff here. So they went about it in different manners. Now, as far as Russia is concerned, just like he likes who is Kim Jong-un, and I think is it the guy in Venezuela, whatever. Dictators is who Trump likes, because to them, he's the king. He runs stuff where he wants people to jump and salute, and he wants their buttholes to pucker up every time he walks by. That's kind of his mentality. So he likes those type of guys that rule with an iron fist and can sit there and be like, I want them dead, and next thing you know, they're off. So when it comes to the United States, I think the United States wants to be on a respectable plane to be able to talk to Russia. They don't want to go to war with Russia because they got nuclear arms, and Putin is crazy. Just like Kim Jong-un is crazy. So I think it's not so much that the United States want respect, but I think Trump is willing to bend over backwards and do everything he can to just shovel stuff to Putin. Now, as far as Israel is concerned, both sides in love with Israel. The Democrats and the Republicans love with Israel, so they're willing to shovel everything they can to Israel and just destroy the Palestinians.
Let me jump in. So and go a little back and forth with you on it. So Biden was also putting tariffs on China, and Biden's policy was not just to go through Taiwan. When Biden came into office, he continued. He didn't stop them. He didn't decrease them.
Yeah, he continued Trump's tariffs.
The tariffs on China. Trump has stated, Biden stated, and Secretary of State at the time, Blinken stated, that again, China was the number one enemy of the United States. And as well as putting pressure and giving weapons to Taiwan, which I think you are completely correct with, they continue to make a pivot, or attempted to make a pivot towards China as challenging it as their major adversary. And so it wasn't just Trump who's been doing that. That's been the policy since Obama. But because the United States is an empire, other things have happened in between that, which have not allowed it to completely turn all its forces towards China. Some of it of its own making, some of it of its not of its making, i.e. in terms of trying to reduce its footprint in the Middle East. After October 7th, the United States did not reduce its footprint, but now is looking for ways in which it can continually support Israel in its war against not only Palestinians, but the axis of resistance, right? So I think the United States continues. I don't think Putin is a madman. I think Putin is a leader who is calibrated in terms. Putin did not start a war in Ukraine just because he wanted to invade Ukraine. Again, this has been going on for decades in terms of the West and the United States continually pushing NATO to the borders of Russia, and where Russia has said over and over again, do not do that. Stop this now. We have a red line, right? And I even just like some people in the chat, Russia has continually expressed an interest in being a part of the Western family of nations, right?
Oh yeah, G20 and the G8. They want to be back in the G8. Yeah.
It's only because they've been pushed out, because at the time they still were considered to be a continual sort of pain in the side of Western interest, and were not worthy of membership completely, except for taking their oil. So the United States continued to look at both Russia and China as its adversary. I do think the big difference is that the strategy of Trump is to say that we're going to basically encircle China by trying to take Russia away from China as a potential ally. And again, I don't necessarily think I don't trust Russia completely to not try to pivot a little bit. I don't think Russia, again, is foolish enough in terms of all the support that China has given it over the last 4 or 5 years in particular, based on this war in Ukraine, buying its oil, continuing to do trade, continuing to help support it even militarily, that China would be stupid enough, that Russia would be stupid enough to break completely away from China and pivot towards the West. Because I think after all of this, I think Russia actually has seen, again, based on its own past behavior when it wanted to be part of the West, that it's not getting them the what they thought they would get out of it, right? They're not becoming part of the Western family of nations, and all of that stuff did not materialize. In fact, even as they tried to push and be friends with the West, again, through not only Ukraine policy but other policies, was again encircling them and trying to push NATO right up to their borders, basically a military alliance that was built after World War II specifically to go after the Soviet Union / Russia. So,
oh yeah, I totally agree with you on that. As far as Russia, with the whole situation, they kind of, they want to be in good, but they don't trust the United States wholeheartedly, because the United States, I'm a U.S. citizen, but still, the United States kind of shysty when they do stuff. And they do things for their own material gain. But I figured that once Trump gets out, I think whatever Republican steps into the office next, a Democrat, I think is going to reset, and they're not going to be as friendly or as willing to give as much as far as Trump is concerned. I think Trump is he's a unique individual. Because of his mentality, because of his love with dictators and just that kind of mentality of him wanting to be the king, him wanting to be the dictator of the United States. So his infatuation to entertain Kim Jong-un, things like that. But I think all that's going to kind of reset, and it's going to be more of a mano a mano, not so much, friendly, trying to be buddy. But as far as the whole mineral wealth, the whole mineral thing with Ukraine, that's definitely part of the agenda to try to usurp China, as well as this whole move to try to take Greenland and be able to muscle their way in to take advantage of all of their rare earth minerals that they have. Getting control of a lot of the minerals, the minerals in Ukraine, as well as those in Greenland, will put the United States in a better position to try to be able to muscle and have a stronger hand against China and be less dependent on China. So I firmly agree with you on that.
Yeah,
Right,
I think we agree on the only other thing I would suggest real quickly, though, is the United States has always loved dictators. Trump has a huge ego. I agree. I completely agree with that, and wants to be next to him. Yeah.
He's very
United States
vocal.
history is always to support dictators and get the facade of supporting democracy, when democracy is the last thing that it really cares about. It really cares about governments in the United States pocket.
Well, one last comment I'm gonna make before I get out of here. Most of the dictators that the United States support, they put in office.
Yeah, bro.
They go in and they put them in office. So to them, they're like, hey, we put them in, but we didn't know that they were going to be how they work. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, hey, I appreciate it. Kamal, peace out.
Peace, black man.
Yeah, doctor. I appreciate you bringing me up, man.
No doubt. X-Men Frida, you be safe out there. Thanks for
you go
chiming
message
in.
name up again, dude. I'm just playing.
You know I do it on purpose.
Hey, you giving me superpowers. I'm an X-Man.
That's what I'm saying.
Take that and run with it. Take that and run with it.
Right.
I'm embrace it, but I had to mess with you. But hey, I'm going back in the chat. I appreciate the love, and I'm out straight from South Carolina, baby.
Big up. Kakalaki in the building. All right.
I wanted to answer this question real quick. Somebody said, why would Russia be interested in joining Western powers if they're literally the R in the BRICS? So let's not mistake what BRICS is. BRICS is not a military alliance. It's an economic alliance, which is attempting to create alternatives to Western institutions. But you have countries like India and other countries that are part of BRICS, and even China to a degree, right, who are walking a fine line of trying to develop an alternative economic order, but without overtly stating or suggesting that it is trying to destroy the current Western order. They're trying to, their public statements mostly is that what they're attempting to do is open up that order, the Western order, so that they can have more of a role or more a place in it. And even though Russia, I think before Trump came in, has been more steadfast, and I think they still will be steadfast in trying to create alternative international currencies, an alternative to the SWIFT system, alternative to trading. It just because you are in BRICS, it does not mean that these countries have in total said that they're giving up on Western either resources or international order, but they are, at the time in which they're having the struggle, attempting to push to have alternative orders. Why? Because no one wants to be sanctioned by the West. No one wants to have the West be able to cut off their economies from the markets and complete. And have those markets cut off from them, and then they have nowhere to turn, right? And they can't trade anymore, and they're like left isolated. So they are looking to develop alternatives when it comes to international trade and international order. But just by being in BRICS, South Africa's in BRICS, and South Africa just hosted the G20, right? So just because they're in BRICS, it does not mean that they are completely against the current economic or order. But it does mean that they're attempting slowly but surely, and as all these countries are, trying not to overtly get on the bad side, most of them anyway, of the United States. Only Iran has openly, openly defied the United States in ways in which it is said that its mission through the axis of resistance is to stop Western hegemony. Even China, to a degree, again, still wants access to U.S. markets to sell its goods, has not left the SWIFT system itself, but has also created other systems. So just because some of these countries are in BRICS, it does not mean that they are looking to be exclusively away from the Western order, but they're trying to open up that order and create alternatives so that they can't be hurt by the Western order. And maybe eventually it does replace it, but it is not necessarily something that's happening right away.
All right. Before we move on to the next story, see if you want to answer this question also. Leah Bog says, is it loose, though? Is the Eastern area, Crimea, you want to read these words? Because Donbass, Russian people, informally a part of Russia. Is it the Eastern area, Crimea, Donbass, Russian people, informally a part of Russia? Black Liberation Media. And yes, I'm at work. I close my door until 10 a.m. Laugh out loud.
Yeah, I think some again, part of Russia's claims is that some of these areas are dominant Russia ethnicities, and so therefore were historically part of Russia. But Russia, post the breakdown of the Soviet Union, has eventually allowed the nation state of Ukraine to exist and allow those borders to exist. And I personally think that Russia would not have gone into Crimea, to take it back if it was not for the political stance of the Ukrainian government in, again, allowing and or beginning to allow a creeping NATO or creeping Western influence and interest into the borders of Ukraine. And I think those are part of the reasons that that Russia, as opposed to settling some of these other issues around what is a part of Russia and what is not a part of Russia, decided to invade. Again, Ukraine had existed for years without an invasion, and it wasn't like an invasion when it first became that Russia could have easily have probably taken part of Ukraine then, and or reclaimed it and or worked with the people to have them be part of Russia. But that it's only happened, in my estimation, under the guise of the threat of NATO pushing up to Russia's borders, where it was, hey, we can if we can't work this out through another way, then we're going to work it out this way.
Nice. Hey, come on, I believe you can have your own show, man. You know, when nobody shows up, you're doing your thing. Big up. Somebody said I'm a sidekick, so yeah, good thing. What's the what's the next story we got coming up?
I actually, Brother X brought this story up, and I don't think we've talked about this in a little bit. But Mondoweiss or Mondoweiss, whatever your pronunciation is.
Mondoweiss.
I think you are correct. That as we're talking about this so-called ceasefire with Israel and Gaza and the exchange of Palestinian held hostages with Israel, at the same time, Israel has now displaced over 40,000 Palestinians in the northern West Bank and has now openly said that those people will not be allowed to return. So the ethnic cleansing and genocide continues to happen in and around the land of Palestine, right? So part of the story, the Israeli army expanded its ongoing offensive in northern West Bank to include several towns on Sunday. The second largest town in the Jenin, I think, governorate. The Israel army pushed armored vehicles into the town in the early hours of Sunday morning and began demolishing a series of stores at the town's entrance. According to residents, Israeli bulldozers, I'm reading fast, immediately started to tear out water pipes in the streets and demolish the outside wall of a historic cemetery containing a memorial for the tomb of 45 Iraqi soldiers who were killed defending Jenin in the 1967 war. Since following the beginning of the Israeli attack, Israel's war minister, Israel Katz, announced the expansion of the Iron Wall offensive. In a written statement, Katz also admitted that Israeli forces had expelled 40,000 Palestinians from 3 refugee camps in Jenin and Tukuman, a figure reported by the UNRWA weeks ago. Katz said the refugee camps were now empty of residents, and that UNRWA activity in the camps has also been stopped, asserting that he had instructed the Israeli army not to allow the residents of the camps to return to their homes for an entire year.
Damn.
We will not return to the reality of the past. We will continue to clear refugee camps and so other terror centers. This is according to Katz. So this article continues to explain that the Israeli offensive in the land of Palestine continues to go. And there was just another story that came yesterday came on, that Israel is continuing to hold land in Syria in terms of extending what it calls its security zone in, I guess, what would be considered northern Syria, southern southern so-called Israel. And that so Israel is now making huge land grabs, right, in terms of post the so-called war between Israel and Hamas. So it is now taking additional land in Syria. It is still in Lebanon. It is now taking land and more land in the West Bank. It is now still in some ways in Gaza. And so all of these areas Israel has now expanded its dominance or its control over some of these areas. And again, the resistance is still applying pressure, but this has been a time period in which the Israelis have expanded their presence and their dominance in some ways in the Middle East. We've had the fall of the Syrian regime. We've had a president now in Lebanon, which is mostly pro-West, which is challenging Hezbollah. And so Israel continues to attempt to expand its dominance, and which is another reason why the United States, I think, is intent or feels like it can in some ways reposition itself towards China, because its military outposts, and that's what Israel is to the West and particularly to the United States, a military outpost, is basically murdering, killing, committing genocide, basically committing ethnic cleansing and seizing more land and territory for its role of dominating the Middle East through its military. The United States, again, gives weapons and gives resources to the country of Jordan, to the country of Egypt, has friendly relations with Saudi Arabia and the other fiefdoms and or kingdoms in the Middle East. And this all allows the United States to continue to pivot towards China because it has its control over Middle East. At least it sees most of its control over the Middle East being secured, even as it committed a genocide against Palestinians. Imagine this, 50, 60 years ago, Egypt, Jordan, all these different nation states militarily challenged Israel, right? They saw themselves as a challenge to the imperialist order. But now through this 50 or 60 year time period, these nation states have been brought off and would rather be in under the thumb, let's say, of the United States and the United States military and political and economic interests, because they are receiving some sort of benefits. Again, either they're getting huge amounts of resources in terms of military aid or economic aid, or they're able to trade with the United States as Saudi Arabia in terms of trying to get investment from the West. And so basically the Palestinians, their cause doesn't matter except to the axis of resistance, which again, I think has taken a huge blow during this time period. They've defended, but they are a weakened resistance than they were 2 years ago at this particular time period, even with the advent or the addition of I'm forgetting the name of the group that the Yemenis who supported or added to the axis of resistance during this time period. But a lot of the resistance has been hurt and damaged during this time period.
So it sounds like this is just a bunch of, they're going to be nomads now. They don't have any land, and then if they got to go get on somebody's land, they got to pay to be on land. Animals are laughing at us like, y'all are the only species that pay to live on Earth. I mean, like, this shit is crazy right there.
Well, I feel like particularly for Jordan, Jordan and Egypt nominally stood up to Trump, not publicly, because everybody, as we see, anytime there's these visits to the White House, everybody's basically kissing the ring, right? Mm-hmm. You just had the French president go over and kiss the ring. You had the Jordanian king, so-called king, come over and kiss the ring publicly, no matter what outrageous, crazy thing that Trump was saying, particularly in front of the Jordanian president's or king's face, I should say. He basically laughed it off and had basically a panic attack on cameras in front of Trump, blinking his eyes every half a second.
Yeah, it was crazy. He's like,
he basically had a panic attack, and so what the hell he was going to say. But they did say that they would not take in any large amount of Palestinian populations, right? So in that small way, small but important way, they stood up. But they're not willing to do anything more because they all have agreements, not only with the United States, but with Israel. And part of their agreements are with the IDF. And so they have security exchanges, intelligence exchanges, and they themselves have positioned themselves to be against the axis of resistance. Remember, when Iran was trying to drop missiles on Israel in retaliation of its attacks against Iranian forces in Syria, it was Jordan that became a part of the defense of the Iron Dome that shot down some of the Iranian missiles. So Jordan is a captured nation. Egypt is a captured nation. Saudi Arabia is a captured nation. You can go on and on and on. And this is what's allowing the Palestinians to basically fight with not the support that they should be getting. Egypt is right there on the border of Gaza. It could easily be a large support center and challenge if Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, which is right there in terms of having a border with the West Bank, is really doing nothing to stop this current incursion by the Israeli government, which has now displaced 40,000 more Palestinians. Many, and again, the lineage between Jordan, the state of Jordan and Palestinian is somewhat inseparable in terms of many of that population also being of Palestinian origin. But the government of Jordan has done nothing in any real way, in any real time, to defend Palestinians, except with some words, and again, saying that these are our red lines, but it's doing nothing to stop what's happening right now in the West Bank. And basically the Palestinians, whatever weapons, and then the Palestinian Authority has also sided with Israel on a lot of this. Is the Palestinian Authority that turned its own weapons against the militants in the West Bank, Palestinian militants in the West Bank. It didn't turn its weapons on Israel. It turned its weapons against its own people in defense of Israel. So the Palestinian people, because of the resources that Israel gets, particularly from the United States, again, is left not necessarily completely defenseless, but is left in a weakened position to defend its land and its territory because of this. And this is what's led to basically 40,000 Palestinians now being displaced in the West Bank, and no coverage in mainstream Western media, no coverage in the New York Times, no coverage in the Washington Post about these kind of stories. You have to find these stories in alternative newspapers, because the West, these newspapers are friends of Israel and friends of empire. And so that also is happening as we speak.
Man, that's a great way to get cheap labor. I mean, you displace the people from their land, and then they got to go around and try to find ways to feed their family. Sounds mad familiar.
And that's already been happening. And part of what Israel's deal was that they would allow Palestinians to come in and work in Israel, right? Because they needed the labor.
Yeah.
And so with certain security passports or badges and so forth, and they have to go through these winding checkpoints. That is another way in which Palestinians were allowed to basically feed themselves. And obviously the economy that they built up in both the West Bank and in Gaza were somewhat, they had some control over it, but a lot of it was also controlled by the outside forces. And so when the Israelis had control over water supply, the Israelis had control over the money that the Palestinian Authority gets to pay for the soldiers which attack the Palestinian people. And so this is a good lesson in what colonialism looks like up front, in terms of what's happening here in the West Bank, in Gaza, and the so-called country of Israel, which is dominating and taking control over the Palestinian land.
Boy, I tell you, Leia is keeping us on our toes today. She got all the questions. Black Liberation Media, did y'all cover the funeral of Hezbollah's leader? A video clip of thousands of people that came out to honor him.
Hundreds of thousands. I don't think we did cover it. I'll look for a quick clip right now. But literally hundreds of thousands of people came out to the funeral of Hezbollah's murdered by the Israeli government. I'll try to find a clip, but it's like Nasrallah, who was killed by Israeli bombs, Israel, and even during the funeral, in order to show its dominance, Israel flew planes over the funeral, which again, they would have never have done that 3 years ago in terms of some important event held by Hezbollah. But because of the weakened state of Hezbollah, the question becomes, will Hezbollah be able to recover from the losses that it just took, right? They've now been pushed back from the southern border of Lebanon. Whether or not UN troops will come there is another question. But Israel has refused at this stage to honor the so-called ceasefire and move all of its troops out of southern Lebanon. And so the question is, how can Hezbollah recover from the recent war with Israel? And remember, the prior war, right? Israel took a beating, even though it was able to drop bombs and smash a lot of the homes and property in southern Lebanon, but it still felt like it was a standstill, which meant that Hezbollah in some ways had won that previous war because it was still able to fire missiles into Israel. This time, Israel was able to basically beat back Hezbollah and push it somewhat off of its southern Lebanon and off of the northern border of Israel, and now it is trying to keep that area clear. And some people are saying that the funeral was also an opportunity for Hezbollah to show that it still exists as a dominant political and military force in Lebanon. The West is attempting to use this time period to reestablish its own dominance through the choosing of the president in Lebanon, making declarations that the Lebanese military should be the only holder of force or arms in the state of Lebanon. But Hezbollah is fighting back against that and has never agreed, even in the ceasefire, to give up any of its weapons. So the question now becomes for Lebanon, will Hezbollah be able to reestablish itself? Again, reestablish is a strong word because it's still established, right? But to reestablish itself as a dominant or as the dominant player in Lebanese politics, it will obviously have still its weapons, which I don't think the Lebanese army will be able to take away from Hezbollah, not without a real huge civil war, which the Lebanese army would still lose. But the question becomes whether Hezbollah, eventually probably yes, but in a short period of time, what is Hezbollah going to be able to do to reestablish itself as a dominant security force, protecting Lebanon from the Israeli invaders? And one thing that's giving it some hope, in addition to, again, the mass amount of support that the funeral showed for Hezbollah, is that Israel has already went against the ceasefire, and the Lebanese government, the Lebanese military, is doing nothing whatsoever about what's happening in terms of Israel saying, we're going to stay longer. Like, we don't care what the ceasefire said. We're going to stay longer and create this buffer zone. So what will Hezbollah do? Will Hezbollah reorganize itself to now be able to attack the invaders? And again, that was the very nature of why Hezbollah came into existence in the first place, to go against an Israeli invasion and takeover of part of the country in southern Lebanon decades ago. That is the initial purpose of what Hezbollah was established for. Will Hezbollah now be able to regroup itself and be able to take on and or fight back against this latest incursion by Israel? Because the Lebanese government is not going to do it, and the military is not powerful enough to do it. So that is for sure going to be the next challenge in Lebanon. And again, the funeral of Nasrallah, who was, the leader of Hezbollah, a very charismatic leader of Hezbollah, who was able to unite Lebanese people beyond not just the Hezbollah forces, and play an active role as this hero of the resistance. Whether or not it can now do that without him present, obviously I think it will. But the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, I think, according to some folks in the chat, who came out for the funeral, is a way of showing that this dominance, or that this resurgence is beginning, and that people are not necessarily people who are Shiites in particular, but people are not necessarily blaming Hezbollah for the war that has destroyed parts of southern Lebanon. People understand that the reason for that destruction is because you have basically an empire, a U.S.-controlled empire, a U.S.-controlled colonial outpost on your border. That until that is dealt with, Lebanon will never have complete control over its landmass and its society, because you have someone there who has the military hardware, and that the Lebanese military has to become stronger and understand that it has to challenge empire. And so, yeah.
You need a quick second to pull up the video, or I could get.
Yeah, I would like to, because I would like to show it. Yeah.
All right, quick second right here on the Remix Morning Show. Yeah, let's take a quick second break.
We go wild, just sit the fuck down. All the way for 215 the buck down. Something's about to go down. What's up? Yeah, it sound tight. Well, I bow. We got the broad spot because they must have forgot. We double trouble, bubble and hot.
Let's get back to it right here. The Remix Morning Show. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare. And you can donate right here at blkliberationmedia.org. We are demonetized, and that will help us out very much. Thank y'all for doing that. Now, let's get right back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah, a little something, some dope songs. Most Def and Black Thought, Double Trouble, mixed with a little bit of the Headhunters. God Made Me Funky. All right, here we go.
All right, here we go.
إن أقصى ما يملكه عدونا هو أن يقتلنا وإن أقصى ما يمكن أن نتطلع إليه.
Hey, bring that back real quick.
You should bring it back?
Yeah. The most powerful enemy we have is to kill us. And the worst thing that can happen to him is for us to be killed in the way of Allah. May He bless you and grant peace. The Prophet.
So we don't have to play the whole thing, but this, I mean, look at
that's
song.
A stadium.
Yeah, it was a stadium full in the streets. You had hundreds of thousands. Again, I think some people have estimated over 1 million people who came out for this leader. This is not a organization or people who are defeated by any stretch of the imagination. And so no matter what the Western media tells you, obviously, again, it has suffered a loss, not only of its leader and a lot of its military hierarchy in terms of the militia, a lot of its day-to-day leadership and so forth, but it is built to sustain itself, right? That's one of the things that people have to understand about a militia or organization like Hezbollah. Even though it had a charismatic leader, as Nasrallah was, it is not built around solely a charismatic leader. It is built around an organizational apparatus and an ideology that says that this organization will exist even when our leaders are taken out, because it knows the enemy. The enemy is built to try to do assassinations, to take out its leadership, thinking that that will destroy the organization and or the support, but it is an ideological commitment that people have to the resistance and to the revolution to keep Lebanon whole and to keep the enemy, an enemy being Israel, out of Lebanon, and to further than that, fight for the Palestinian people. So again, knowing that they would take great losses, there's nothing that Hezbollah could have just done nothing after Israel started to invade Gaza. It could have done nothing as it saw the bombs dropped on Gaza, as many other nations around it did not. Hezbollah could have just stood there and said, that's not our problem, or that's part of the axis and that's the role that they're taking. Hezbollah did not do that. It tried to open up a second front to allow the people of Gaza, the Hamas militia in Gaza, to have some relief so that it could try to divide, right? But the enemy, the Israeli enemy of the Palestinian people, of the Arab people, of the Muslim people in that region, decided to use, again, its superior technology to fight a battle on two fronts and or three fronts. And only because of the weaponry that it gets from the United States can it do this kind of work. If the United States stops selling weapons to Israel or giving weapons to Israel tomorrow, Israel cannot stand up to the forces of the axis of resistance. But Hezbollah opened itself up to that, knowing that there was something that could happen to it. And Israel, again, planning and plotting since the last war, took advantage of that opening to try to destroy Hezbollah, but it has not succeeded in destroying Hezbollah, even if it has weakened it. You see, there are masses of people who are still there fighting, wanting to see a free Lebanon, wanting to see a free Palestine. And so, that's something that should infuse hope in terms of what resistance can look like. And again, even if the resistance is weakened, there are other now components of the resistance that did not exist before, including the Yemenis in terms of what they've done to fight back against Israel. And so I think, we'll see what happens in the future, but we should be assured that Hezbollah will continue to be a party and an organization and a military force in Lebanon and in the region, but it does need some time to rebuild and to figure out what's next in terms of its strategy.
Too much going on.
It's a lot going on in the world.
God damn.
Home and abroad.
We need mental health break. We need a whole mental health break remix morning show after all this shit's going on.
We also need to get more involved, right? We need to be more publicly aligned and organized and fighting, right? I mean, I think that's what this time for me brings.
It is. Because that is the whole thing right now. Is like we see what these parties ain't doing. We see what they give you all that lip service, but they go ahead and do something else. And it's pretty much showing it's almost a good thing that Agent Orange is in the White House, because it's allowing us to be like, okay, we picking our team because that team ain't repping for us. So now we finally gonna come together. It's just we gotta break these different barriers. We gotta figure out how to get past these different beliefs, and things that keep us apart. We got to come up with one focus. Okay, what is this that's going to keep us together and make us move forward? Mm-hmm. What will be the answer for that? What is the one thing that's going to make us?
I think I don't know if there's one thing, but I think part of the struggle is that there's an internal struggle and an outward struggle. And that internal struggle, when I say internal, I mean amongst our folks, is that there's a bourgeois, middle class, black misleadership group that wants to keep us tied to the Democratic Party and keep us tied to the empire that this country is. And part of that fight is to fight against that so that we don't fall back into the trap of thinking that at the next election, we're going to vote in some Democrats and the problem is going to be solved. So I think that's part of what the struggle is. It's both a struggle for our own self-determination and our fight back against what the Republicans and the right-wing nationalists are doing, as well as an internal struggle to separate ourselves and to isolate, for us to isolate them as opposed to allowing them to isolate us to isolate the neoliberal black politicians, which continually do nothing for our people and do everything for developers and capitalist interests and basically side with empire, both domestically and internationally. That those groups need to be isolated so that we, as a stronger force of a black left, can reclaim a certain positioning amongst our people as a voice of resistance. And I think that's our next step. And we can only do that like you said, out of a sense of unity of all these different organizations, putting aside the egos and the small differences we may have in some politics, but we can only do that as a united front, as a united force.
So does it turn more from being a race unity to a class unity, where it's like
But it's a class battle.
But at the same time, I'm feeling like we could still use the black bourgeois money to fund the organizations. Like,
Problem with the black bourgeois. Well, one, the black bourgeois folks aren't giving money.
they ain't
We're
giving
not
money.
getting no black bourgeois money. Even the money we get are from the white capitalist sector. To be out, you know what I mean? Like, so if you're talking about these groups that are getting money, either as a nonprofit or individual donations, and those monies are big resources. Those monies are either coming from individual white folks and or corporate interests, the ones that are coming in big numbers. The black bourgeois is not giving mass amount of money to left forces or organizing.
They're saving it for generational wealth.
They're saving it for their so-called generational wealth. They may do some service projects. What they're really doing is buying big houses next to those white folks, right? And they're trying to get businesses. They're trying to get their cut from the larger white businesses out there. So in that respect, we're not beholden to the black bourgeoisie whatsoever, because they're not supporting the black left. In fact, they are the enemy of the black left, and they see the black left as their enemy too. They see themselves as the line of so-called progressivism, in which they are so-called being the voice of what black people want and desire. And that's why that's part of that fight. That is a class struggle, right? Because part of that struggle is that the black bourgeois cannot speak for the black masses, because they don't represent the interests of the black masses. They represent their own interests, which again is tying themselves to the Democratic Party and tying the rest of our people to the Democratic Party, which only leads to failure, right? The Democratic Party is where movements go to die. So we have to be organized enough in terms of a black left, create bigger institutions than what we have, bigger organizations than what we have, to do the unity that's necessary, because it's without that unity, we can't fight the black bourgeois, because they get more money from the black capitalist class than even we do.
Talk that talk. And on that note, thank you all for tuning in to the Remix Morning Show on this beautiful Wednesday, and this CMB Wednesday today. Big up to BAP, big up to all the organizations that's out here doing it. Go ahead and find your organization to join that will help you to help us as a people move forward. All right, with that said, we're going to get up out of here and be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. with some more Ear Doctor and Kamal. I think we'll have Jackie joining us. Maybe Kim. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Just come. That's why it was the Remix Morning Show. You never know what you're going to get.
Featuring Kamal Franklin.
Pretty much.
That's going to be the new title? For the Kamal Franklin Morning Remix Show?
Yeah,
do that?
Yeah. I'm going to work on the thumbnail.
You're going to work on
We out of here, y'all.
All right.
Catch y'all. Peace.
Peace, everybody.